Good evening, Chris and Janice. I hope you can hear me okay. If you could just give me an indication in the chat that you can hear me, I'd appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. We're going to hold out for a couple more minutes until other people arrive, and then we will get started. So I hope you guys are having a good night. How are you? Oh, goodness. Moving is one of the most stressful things, like, to do. So, my heart goes out to you. Good luck. And we're just going to give them 2 more minutes. Good time to grab a snack. I know we're around dinner time. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and start. And if anyone happens to pop in a little late, that is okay. So thank you for the gift of your time, and thank you for joining me today for the Student Emergency Funding 101. The purpose of this will be to make sure you have all of the tools necessary if you have any emergency situations that you can go ahead and get those taken care of and you know where to go. So, and you all can see the shared screen. Awesome. So you'll probably have noticed that you've been muted upon entry. You can unmute yourselves, and we're such a small group. If you have any questions as we go along here, I invite you to ask them as we go. There will also be time to have questions at the end. Here's my contact information. It's also up on the Iliff website. Very easy, financialaid@iliff.edu. As the building is closed, what I recommend if you call me is call me and leave a message, because sometimes Zoom doesn't work out the way I want it to, and it's just easier for me to give you a call back. And then, of course, as we've been using the chat feature, you have figured that one out. So my name is Goldie Ector. I am the Director of Financial Aid. I've been here for a little over a year, and I am the primary contact for student financial needs. So that's any sort of federal aid, scholarships, and things like that, including emergency aid that's provided by Iliff. So it's an office of one. When you call financial aid, I'm it. So, if you need anything at all, just let me know. I cherish the intimate relationship that I get to have with all of the students, being that I am the main point of contact. So never hesitate to reach out. So this is our agenda. We're going to go over our institutional student emergency fund, which was set up by our student senate earlier this year. the Iliff Institutional Emergency Loan, which is a different set of emergency aid that may be available to you. Then, just looking beyond Iliff, looking at local short-term assistance, how to find assistance out in your neighborhood and in your community. And then delaying student loan payments. I know that sneaks up on people every once in a while. In the current climate, we're not really worried about it because Congress kind of cut into loan payments until September. But in case of other emergencies, it's good to know what you can do to delay your student loan payments. Then we're going to go into undergraduate resources for dependents and spouses. There are more options for undergrad students than there are grad students. So if you have, spouses or dependents who are in undergrad, you might be able to get assistance through that avenue. And then at the end, of course, we can do Q&A. And Katie just joined us. Hi, Katie. And as I was telling Janice and Chris, if you have any questions, because it's a small group, feel free to unmute yourself as we go, and I will answer those. Otherwise, yes, Q&A at the end. Okay, so the Student Emergency Fund. At the beginning of 2020, when we all found ourselves just plunged into chaos, the Student Senate, with the input of other Iliff students, developed the Student Emergency Fund. And what they did is that they recognized the need for students to be prepared for all sorts of short-term emergencies, even beyond the COVID crisis. So what they did is they got together and they put out a call to action for fundraising. And our board of directors made a dedication that they would match the first 10,000, and that occurred, I believe, within the first week that money was raised. I am so proud of the Iliff community. It just really shows the heart of this community. So, that fund is continuing to grow, and we have helped out at least 11 students and spent just over $11,000. So our students are benefiting, and we're able to offer some assistance as we make our way through this crisis currently. And not all of the students who have received this fund have had COVID-related crises. Sometimes, life happens and we have to figure out our way around life's not so fun hiccups. So eligibility for the Student Emergency Fund is pretty broad. The best way to boil it down would be you can't have it used for any expected expenses dealing with tuition. So it can't be used towards tuition fees or books. And you do have to provide documentation for the expenses that you are asking to be covered. There isn't a limit that's listed, but there is a committee that decides what to fund within reason. So that documentation is really important because that's what we're going to base the decision on. Okay. And full funding is not guaranteed. It is a limited resource. We want to make sure that we're helping out as many students as we can. And then it's one application per academic year. So that's just something to keep in mind. It might not be worth the $100 that you might be short, but if you need that, let us know. The turnaround time is a little under a week if you have your application in by a Wednesday. And it's dispersed back out to you the same way that a financial aid refund check would go out through the business office. So there is that. The short-term emergency loan is different. So instead of needing documentation and an application, the qualification for the short-term emergency loan through Iliff is that you have to have enough financial aid to cover both the emergency loan and the tuition and fees for the following quarter. So say we're coming up on fall. If you have money beyond fall tuition, you can technically borrow against that. It becomes attached to your tuition and fees. So when your financial aid finally pays in, it pays in for tuition and fees and the loan outstanding balance. So it's not you paying out of pocket. It's just borrowing against financial aid you already have available. There's no documentation. We're not going to ask what the money is being used for. The only thing is that there is a promissory note, just because it's a legal binding document and it's a legal loan. And you would just contact me for either the student emergency fund or the emergency loan. So finding local resources within your city, state, and even the government. If we start at the top of the pyramid, benefits.gov has a resource that has a questionnaire attached to it, and that questionnaire allows you to kind of personalize the assistance that you might need. And in doing that, it helps kind of, instead of having to weed through all of the possible resources that you might not qualify for, it picks out resources specific to you. The only thing about it is that I warn students about is when you're going towards government resources, the timeline is longer and it's usually harder to get. It's not that great of a emergency resource for like a short term, needed within a couple of weeks. This is more of unemployment insurance or food stamps, food assistance, Section 8 vouchers, things like that, where it's a longer term emergency need. So that's something to think about. And then community action agencies those are state-run nonprofits that receive federal funding to assist in emergencies. So this is your food banks sometimes. United Way is technically considered a community action agency, but they're more local, and they usually have more personalized assistance and programs, and are able to point you in the right direction. I personally advise you to start with community action agencies and company websites first to get assistance, as opposed to starting at the top of the pyramid with the federal government. Checking the utility company websites is very helpful, because even outside of COVID and the current, emergencies and major disasters, there's usually some sort of program available to, people in need, just through that company's offering. Usually if you can, communicate with them and let them know that you are, in need of some assistance, they have something for you. And it's just a matter of you reaching out and asking. And then you might have in the past heard of LEAP. LEAP is the assistance that's offered through most utility companies that's tied to the federal government. So that's in most states, where community action agencies and utility companies would be kind of localized. All across the nation, everyone should have some sort of LEAP program. And then the United Way Worldwide Dial 211 program just allows you to, to call someone and get those resources. as a far, opposed to Googling and, trying to figure out what works best for you. Sometimes talking to someone with those resources is a lot faster and a lot, less stressful than trying to find those resources on your own. So we have had a couple of people join us in the meantime, and I don't want to feel like I'm steamrolling through this. Does anyone have any questions so far? And those questions can help us get everyone caught up a little bit. And if not, that's all good. And what I'll do is I will go back to the top after Q&A just to make sure, our newer participants have the information that they need if, they so desire. So one of the things that folks run into is suddenly they have a cut in income and they have the student loan debt that's dogging them and they're not quite sure what to do. And so currently, due to COVID, loan payments and interest are suspended until the end of September. So you don't have to worry about anything as long as it's a loan that's owned by the federal government. So it has to be a direct loan or a what used to be called a FELP loan. So if you haven't had to contact anyone, you're usually good. If your loan was taken out prior to 2004, you might want to check in with whoever's holding your loans. Most likely it'll be Nelnet, and see what you can do to have those have that loan suspended. However, if you're a current student, your loans should already be technically not in repayment because you should have in-school deferment. As long as you are in at least half-time enrollment, you don't have to pay on your loans. They do, however, still accrue interest. And if you have the ability to pay interest while in school, I highly recommend it. That way, when you do go into repayment, your funding is going straight to principal. But if you can't, just know that you're not required to while in school. If you're not in either of these spaces and you find yourself with a reduction of income and not able to pay your student loans, you can still call whoever's holding your loans. Again, it's probably Nelnet, and ask for hardship forbearance. It's usually they do it at 3 months at a time, and it's renewable. And they will walk you through that process and what that looks like. So if you have a spouse or a spouse, a partner, any dependents who are currently doing undergraduate work, it's good to know that they have more options than graduates. The federal government kind of threw graduate students under the bus a little bit, just with the financial aid offerings in general. And so when crises come up, there's not that many options to, pull ourselves up or apply for additional money. So if you do have undergraduate dependents, they have the ability to do something called professional judgment, where they can look at your new financial situation and basically redo your FAFSA. And that could possibly bring down the EFC, the expected family contribution, which is what determines how much money you're eligible for and what kind of money. And for your undergraduate dependents, it could be the difference between subsidized aid, as in sub loan versus unsub loan, or even grant and scholarship aid. So, while you are trying to take care of schooling on your behalf, don't forget that your dependents also have some benefits that they might be able to take advantage of, and that could be money back towards the household for living expenses and things like that if their tuition and fees are already taken care of. And most institutions have either a reduction look at a reduction of income or accrued expenses, where they either, like I said, reduce your EFC or they raise your budget, and that's the way more money pays in. So that's just something to keep in mind, that those options are there, and it's not just your schooling that you want to focus on if you do have undergraduate family members. So we have a student loan expert speaking with us this next Thursday. My apologies, July 17th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So this presentation that I'm giving is solely on emergency aid. Heather's presentation will be on just overall student loans, student loan debt, debt management. She is a loan lawyer, so that's her specialty. She has just an amazing expertise in the field of repayment and, choosing the best loan for you, and that includes private loans and things like that. So, and when students are stressed out about things like that, I set them up with appointments with Heather. So it's a great, I recommend attending the event. It will be recorded for students who are unable to attend. Otherwise, you can talk to me and I'll set you up with an appointment.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
According to my calendar, the 17th is a Friday. So is it Thursday or is it the 17th?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me see. You are correct. It is a Friday.
Okay.
So it is Friday, July 17th. Thank you for looking. That
no problem. I was looking to schedule it in. I'm like,
yeah, that's not quite right.
Thank you.
So yeah, she's amazing. And like I said, if you want an appointment with her just to talk about your specific situation, let me know and I can send you that information. So I know that seemed a little short. So I hope you have questions for me. I'm more than happy to, go back over some sections or whatever you might need.
Okay, so my main question is for the emergency assistance funds. You said we need documentation. So my situation is basically didn't work for a month, and my family helped me out, and now I need to pay them back. What do we need documentation of my bills, or is there should they write a letter?
Documentation of bills.
Okay.
Is what I would recommend. So for this kind of fund, it would be, we've had students submit their lease to show us how much they're paying per month, bills, medical bills, utility bills, things like that.
Okay.
Just note that that full funding is not guaranteed. We've had some pretty large requests that we just simply couldn't meet, but we try to be as fair as possible. Just it's a 3-person committee, so we talk it out.
Okay, thank you.
Janice, Dennis, any questions?
I don't have any questions right now. I just wanted to come in to see what's available, and maybe eventually if I have any questions, I'll reach out to you.
Excellent. And this session is also being recorded, so if you missed the first half, you can go back and watch it and catch up. So I won't hold you guys for, the rest of your evening. I will go ahead and let you go. Again, for any of your needs, you can feel free to contact me. Um, I'm at home now, so it's not like I can run away. If you need anything, just
I
please drop me a line.
I actually have a question now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Um, how long would this assistance be available, the Student Emergency Fund? Like, how long would it be available for?
Until we're out of money. And we're continuously fundraising for it.
Okay.
So, and we're trying to, while being equitable and, being effective, we're trying to, maintain that fund the best we can. But it's I would give it a couple years. But that's I don't know what the fundraising was going to look like over the next year. But
Okay.
we're hoping that it's around for a really long time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So if there isn't anything else, I will go ahead and you guys have a great evening. And again, if you need anything, just let me know. Thank you for joining this presentation. I hope it was helpful. And if anything comes to mind, again, just holler.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.